What's up, guys? Another week, another episode of Tea Time for Vegas. This time, we are visiting Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. I'm Nick Borrman of WagerTalk.com. With me, of course, Andy Lang, also of WagerTalk.com. Talk everything you need to know about this week's golf event. Andy, another good week last week, or at least a fun finish to a tournament at the Honda. How are you doing, my friend? And what do you have up on your page at WagerTalk going on right now besides golf this week?
Besides golf, I was really excited. We got off to a 2-0 start in NASCAR, first 2 NASCAR bets of the year. So I was joking. I think I might be done for the year. I'm going to take that 100% and 100% and brag about having 100%. So NASCAR's going good. We've got basketball up, but obviously we're here to talk about golf from a betting perspective. It was good. We won. I only had 3 bets, but we hit our play of the week. Stropka. Dylan Fratelli, which gave us 4 units profit. So it's really good because I had been down units for the previous couple weeks, so that was good. And what a crazy finish. Congratulations to Straka. It's always cool to see a guy get a win like that. But poor Shane Lowry, the rain comes in at the worst possible time. It rained him out of being able to get a good drive off. I felt bad hearing him talk about it after because he was just right there. Always a good guy. And I always have a soft spot in my heart for Shane Lowry because after he won the Open Championship, one of my friends happened to be in a pub where Shane Lowry walked in holding the claret jug, and like they were able to like sing songs and party with him. It was like Shane Lowry's like big celebration tour. And one of my buddies happened to be in one of those pubs for his pub crawl. It was great. Always awesome. Been it was a cool story. I wish I would have been there. So congratulations to Straka though. And it feels good to have a winning week, and we're going to get into it. Tough course this week. This is a tough course.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Sepp Straka was not on anybody's radar last week, although you did have him in a matchup, so good for you. I eyeballed him for like 0.6 seconds on like a top 20 play because he was like the only name I recognized when the odds started to grow really big. I'm like, oh, I know that guy, but no. So that happens, and we move on to the following week. But before we get into this week's show, I want to mention a promo code we have for everybody for this week's tournament pack. Arnold 20. It takes $20 off Andy or myself's pack for the week, normally priced at $39. Grab it for just $19, which will include all 4 days of action. I actually have a 5% play, first one of the year, loaded as part of that pack, so definitely a good deal. That alone sells for $35 by itself, so it's included in the pack. Also have our WagerTalk.com, either one of our pages, to check that out. All right, as always, let's start off with our best bets and, of course, our worst bets from last week at the Honda. Andy, I'll go to you first. What was your best and what was your worst from last week?
Well, Sepp Straka over Dylan Fratelli was our play of the week. It was 4% play. And, hey, it's always cool when you get a guy that win the tournament. I've had some people say, I bet you would have bet you're bummed you didn't bet on him to win. It was like, no. We cashed a 4% matchup. This is awesome. And it was good because Fratelli played great. This is the first time in a year and a half that he made 2 straight cuts on the PGA Tour. So to have a guy finish ahead was really solid. Straka played great. The stats did exactly what I thought they would. So big win. And then worst, Zach Johnson over Ricky Fowler. Listen, Fowler wasn't great, but the worst part about betting on Zach Johnson now is that you're betting on Zach Johnson. He had really, really good history here, but I had no business betting on Zach Johnson. He was announced as a Ryder Cup captain. That means not competitive as a player. Yes. Yeah. So that one, Zach just didn't play well. I have regrets on that. But Sepp Straka was my big feather in my cap this week. What about you?
Yeah, you weren't the only one on ZGO or Fowler. I saw that a couple Twitter accounts. So you definitely weren't alone in that regard. I avoided that one, but to trust me, I had a bad one myself, which was Sung Jae Im to finish top Asian. It was him versus I think he was one of 8 players, and he should smoke all of those players every single week. It was even money. That's how much of a favorite he was against 7 other players. And he didn't make the weekend. Yeah, he wasn't even close. So he had like 3 doubles on Thursday, or maybe between Thursday and Friday, I forget. But it wasn't pretty. He didn't have a chance. My best bet I did give out in last week's show was Hogard to miss the cut, plus 150. He was, I think, plus 8 for the first 2 days. So that was a very, very nice, very easy cash. So glad to hit that one. And of course, no outrights this week, but that's okay. Still riding my high from Hogue a couple weeks back, and have plenty of room to keep going before we have to hit a winner. So that's the outright markets for you. All right, the Honda Classic. I want to take a quick recap from there. We always talk about the strokes gained going into the tournament. Of course, Sepp Straka was nowhere to be found on this top 10 list for the week, but Daniel Berger was. He was tops, and honestly, the fact that he didn't win that tournament, I mean, he had, 5 shots clear going into Sunday? So that was a major collapse. So this graphic pinpointed right where he should be, right at the top of the leaderboard. Unfortunately, he fell apart. You got Shane Lowry in here, of course, finished runner-up. And then Keith Mitchell, who I did have an outright on, finished in the top 10 at tied for 9th. Several missed cuts, though. Neiman, I don't think, was much of a surprise after his win the previous week. Hogard, I mentioned already. Fleetwood, we both do not like. Fairway Jesus. And Sungjai, I mentioned as well. So this was a feast or famine week as far as the top 10 strokes gained. But again, guys that had a chance were listed in this graphic this week, or last week, excuse me. This week, as we move to the Arnold Palmer, we have the defending champion Bryson DeChambeau, not in the field. And then we have quite the list here of names that you wouldn't necessarily expect leading the way. This is tee to green numbers now. This is not total shots gained, so it does not include putting. But tee to green, we have none other than Luke List, now a PGA Tour winner, leading the way. Zalatoris, Im back up there again. Rahm rounding in at 4th. McIlroy, Scheffler, Matsuyama. So some of the big names you expect there. And then, of course, Martin Laird, who everybody would be right to bet on this week. They're all expecting to be up in this graphic. I looked at his recent finishes. I'm like, how the hell is he in this area? Even like none of his finishes, like he's like in the 30s when he's making cuts. I'm like, whatever. I guess his ball striking has been decent. He must just not be getting around the greens or putting very well. But there's your top 10 for the week. Andy, I'll go to you first. Let's talk a little bit about the Arnold Palmer Invitation. Anything you want to mention about the course or the field this week?
Yeah, well, first off, Arnold Palmer, one of my favorite ESPN Sports Center commercials. Don't know if you remember that, when they had the 2 Sports Center anchors, and there's Arnold Palmer. While he was pouring, he poured himself an Arnold Palmer, a half lemonade, half iced tea, and I believe Scott Van Pelt goes, "That was awesome."
Scott might have been in that one too. That's a fantastic commercial.
it's an all-timer. Bay Hill, not for the faint of heart. I believe the par 3s, the par 4s, and the par 5s are all top 10 hardest. I was reading a little bit about the rough. So they have widened the fairways over the years, but the roughs are going to be 4 inches. And what they've done is they've actually mowed some of the runoff before the water. So in years past, you could blast it, and if it was coming towards the water, it might catch up in the rough. And they've eliminated a lot of that. So you could see some balls that in years past maybe would have not quite gotten into the water this year. They probably are going to roll in there. You mentioned Bryson DeChambeau. I was reading an article saying that they're hiding how bad his wrist is. They're saying the Masters. They're eyeing the Masters. So we may not see him for a while. But as far as this course, I'm looking for guys that don't lose their cool. If that makes sense, because this course can grind you up. It's going to be firm. It's going to be fast. They don't have a lot of moisture there, and there's going to be some times where you really, really get frustrated. So it's just going to be an all-around great performance. You can't overpower this course, so there's no real advantage for the bombers, but at the same time, there's no real shorter players that dominate this. It's just a true golfer's test. It's going to take 4 very, very solid rounds, and at some point, you're going to have to limit the damage on some of the holes. So those are my takeaway. I don't have a stat that I'm really looking at. Last week I was saying, I want to look at greens and regulation and, yards off the tee. This week, it's just a complete game. So that's my takeaway for the course this week.
Yeah, I mean, last week we talked about how difficult the Honda was going to play, and it certainly did. There was, when he scored 10 under, I think there was only 15 guys under par at the end of that event. This week, not any easier. Last year, DeChambeau, 11 under was the winning score. 2 years ago was Hatton at -4. There were some really windy conditions that year. And then you got Francesco Molinari 2 years back in 2019 at -12. So it doesn't post a lot of low scores here either. And really, all Florida courses are the same. I mean, there's not a lot of elevation, of course, but the wind is where it changes how this course plays. And it's a factor this week. Thursday seems like it's going to be pretty calm, or at least light winds. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are expecting some pretty windy, pretty blustery conditions. So probably be pretty tough for these guys. This is a par 72. Scoring average is 73.02 last year and 74.11 in 2020, which is the highest scoring average of a non-major par 72 course over the last 6 years. So that just tells you how difficult this course can play with some wind. Last year, it wasn't quite as difficult, but it's still ranked as the 5th most difficult course to find the greens in regulation. 2020, of course, it was the hardest. And like last week, bunkers and water everywhere. There's over 100 bunkers on the course, a little less water. Only half the holes have water. And what always kind of disappoints me about this event, is it's not always as strong as I would think it would be with Arnold Palmer's name associated to it. So this week, there's only 4 of the top 10 in the world in the field, and only 10 of the top 25 teeing it up. So you got some longer odds. I think there's only about 15 players that are posting odds right now lower than 40-1, and then it starts to creep up pretty high. So you can definitely, if you like a couple of those guys, that's fine. But then you should definitely throw in a couple of guys that are in the 60, 80, or even 101 range, because there's definitely a chance for that to happen this week, especially because Tiger Woods isn't playing. That guy won like 16 events here. So let's get into our plays, our favorites for the week. I'll mention first in my overall take. This is just I don't want to say I'm sticking to this for every single play, but I'm gravitating towards the non-Americans this week, especially English and Aussies, because they're accustomed to playing in the tougher elements, especially the wind. So that's where I will start. I'm looking at Matthew Fitzpatrick as an outright play this week, currently listed at 27-1 at FanDuel, or 3-1 basically as a top 10 play. He's played very well here at Bay Hill. His last 3 years, he finished second, tied for 9th, tied for 10th. He ranks number 1 in this field in strokes gained putting over the last 6 months, averaging a full 1 stroke per round, which is a lot when you talk about putting. Over his last 4 starts, his worst finish was a tie for 12th at the Hero. That was, of course, a limited field event, but he finished second at the DP World Tour Championship, tied for 6th at Pebble, and tied for 10th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So he's got a couple weeks off of rest. He was sick, so that is the only, curveball we have to avoid here. Hopefully that's not holding him back in any way, but I haven't seen anything reporting that it is. He ranks 6th in scoring average this season and is generally a very straight driver, which I think is going to be a very, very important stat this week to avoid that rough, which is long, or worse, as Andy mentioned, where the runoffs can creep into some bunkers and some water. So I think it'll be straight and important to hit those fairways. So I think he's going to set himself up to be able to hit greens, and hopefully he's got a chance come Sunday. But I think he's got some decent value for the outright play this week. Andy, you always like to talk about guys to avoid, or you like to call it guys that can trip you up. So who are you not going to be putting your money on this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with one that's probably going to surprise a lot of people, and I'm going to go with Jon Rahm. He's,
first time here, right?
It is his first time here, and here's what I don't like. I don't like what's happening to him putting wise. When you go back and look at his strokes, he's minus 2.3 and minus 2.6 his last 2 weeks. And I've watched him, and there's something going on there. I don't know if it's the way he's reading it. I don't know if it's his stroke, but something is off. And he finished 21st at his last tournament, but that was a very deceiving 21st. He came from behind. Like he was in the 40s going into, that. So there's something not going on. And so his price is too high. He shouldn't, he's the betting favorite. I get it. But if you're going to put him in daily fantasy and you're going to try and make bets on him where, in his head-to-head matchups, he's like minus 184. This is his first time playing here. And if he doesn't get a good read on the greens from day one, he could struggle. And if you've got him in, your daily fantasy, or you got him in a bet, and he doesn't take off real good and he struggles with his putting like he has the last couple weeks, you're going to be panicking. So I would avoid Jon Rahm. He's not in my seasonal fantasy lineup in the league that you and I play in. I just tell you, I'm not playing Jon Rahm this week. So he's the first guy I think can trip people up. Second is Sepp Straka. We just touched on this. I mean, congratulations on getting his first win. He played great. He's had 3 finishes this year outside the top 40, and he's missed the cut both times he's played here. And talk about a classic letdown spot. Guy gets his first win. He's wrapped up his PGA Tour card. This is a week to celebrate. And on a tough course, I could see him if he gets off to a bad start, I can see him kind of being like, forget it. So Sepp Straka will not be in any of my lineups or in any of my bets. And I got a sneaky one, Russell Henley. So he's played good this year. 2nd, 14th, 33rd, and 33rd. Good stats. Green and regulations, tee to green. I'm not going to be playing this week because of his history here. So from 2013 to 2017, he missed the cut 3 times and he finished 49th and 45th. Then he just didn't play here for 4 years. It was like, I don't play good. I'm not going to play here. So he's going to try and tee it up again. It wouldn't surprise me if he struggles this week. And if you're looking at 2nd, 14th, 33rd, and 33rd as his finishes this year, this is a course he has not done well on. I think he's going to finish outside of that. And I would lower your expectations on Russell Henley. I think there's better guys to bet on and put in your lineups. So, yeah, Jon Rahm, Straka, and Henley, 3 guys that can trip you up this week.
I always get nervous when you start this segment because I'm like, all right, I hope I don't have any of the guys that he's going to mention because then I'll feel like a real ass. So I don't have any of those guys circled. So I feel pretty good about that. Rob is, to hit on him a second, he's a guy that he's like one of the first people I look at in matchups to fade because, he was just 2 weeks ago, JT was plus 150 against Rahm. I mean, having the best players in the world getting that kind of price, I don't care that they're playing Rahm. It's just too good to pass up a lot. So he's so overpriced most of the time. That doesn't mean I don't think either one of us says that he's going to all of a sudden play terribly and miss the cut and be completely out of contention. It just means his numbers are not worth betting on, and you're getting good value elsewhere. So I totally agree there. I will go back to another outright that I'm looking at for this week, and this one is all about the wind, and that's none other than Mark Leishman. Listen, anytime you talk about wind being a factor, Leishman's got to be one of the first guys that comes to mind. Doesn't mean you're always going to bet on him, but at least you're going to think about him. He's notoriously one of the best win players in the game, as most Aussies are. This time around, you can add in how well he's been playing coming into this event. He flew out of the gates in the fall. He went tied for 4th, tied for 3rd his first 2 starts at the Fortinet and the Shriners. Then he had another top 20 at the Houston. And since the calendar turned to 2022, he's kept his foot on the pedal. He finished tied for 10th at the Century. Tied for 36 at the Stony Open, which was his worst finish this year. Tied for 16th at the Farmers, and then tied for 15th at the Genesis, which are both very difficult tracks. Of course, we talked about how difficult this week will probably be. He ranks 15th on tour in scoring average, 7th in birdie average, and 13th in total strokes gained. And then, of course, we have the course history. He missed the cut here last year, but finished in the top 25 in 5 straight years prior to that, including a win in 2017 and a runner-up in 2020. He also finished tied for 3rd here back in 2011 as well. So plenty of good vibes for Leishman here at Bay Hill. And, of course, when the weather is a little rougher, he usually shines. So I think he's got some decent value on either an outright or a leaderboard play. I actually haven't looked at who he's pairing up against in the matchups yet, but I will take a look tonight just before the tournament starts. So, Andy, we'll head back to you. I know you love to touch on your darlings. That would be your fantasy plays for the week. Who are you looking at? Who's got the best value there?
I love your call on Leishman. I mean, you could do a Fitzpatrick, Leishman, Adam Scott start to any of your lineups and probably be in pretty good shape. So what we're doing here with DraftKings Darlings, if you want to cash in these tournaments, you got to nail these lower price guys. So let's find some guys that are 7,000 or less. These are on DraftKings. Sam Ryder, stats are not great for the year, but he's played solid the last 3 weeks. He finished 9th, 26th, 23rd. Last week, his stats were way better than his season averages. Maybe he's made an adjustment, something with his swing, but it just looks like he's turned the corner. And at 6,700, to get a guy that's played 3 really good weeks in a row, I don't want to be too corny here, but I think we can rider the streak here for Sam Ryder at
Oh,
60. I went there. I can't believe this next guy's a DraftKings darling. Ricky Fowler is 6,800. Listen, he's not going to contend for the win, but he's made 2 cuts in a row, and he's made the cut here 5 years in a row with 3 top 20 finishes in that span. Plays good here. At this price, if he makes the cut and gets us weekend points, this price is incredible. And this is a course that you don't have to go super low on, as we've touched on with the final score. So Ricky Fowler can hit it in the fairway, can put it on green and get a par. He can do that. He's not the guy that's going to go 8 under. So this course actually kind of sets up pretty well for a player like him at 6,800. If I get him to make the cut, awesome. He likes playing here. And I'm going to go back to my guy, Sahith Theegala. He's 7,000. He still hasn't missed a cut in 2022. He had the crazy 3rd place finish at Waste Management. He followed that up with a 48th place finish, but he still played on the weekend. I like that he took a week off, a little rested, a little rejuvenated. I think it's going to get you weekend points. So you could start off your DraftKings lineups with Ryder, Fowler, and Theegala. And the top tier, there's a big fall off this week. So if you want to start off with these 3 guys at lower prices, that's going to free up a lot of money for you to put in your Mark Leishmans, your Adam Scotts, your Rory McIlroys, some of those. So yeah, Ryder, Fowler, Theegala. I think you could do a lot worse than starting off your lineup with that.
I feel like Theegala's been forgotten about after just 2 weeks already. I'm looking at him on like the outright market. It's done 150 to 1. I mean, he came out at less than 50 to 1 the week after the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So that's a great find there. I'm going to have to probably throw some money on him in some sort of fashion. And I like your bet against Ricky 1 week and get back on him the following week. Good adjustment there. I will. I'll end my best bets of the week with a matchup play. Looking at taking Kokrak, the big Jason Kokrak over Sam Burns. And right now, Burns just seems like an auto fade material. He's on the heels of 3 straight missed cuts at the Farmers, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and the Genesis. Surprising to say the least, considering how well he was at the end of last year. And he also doesn't have very good history here with his best finish, a tie for 36 in 4 tries. Kokrak seems to be having the opposite story. He started off the season with a miscut and a tie for 54th in the fall. Then he came out of nowhere, won in Houston, and his last 2 starts were pretty solid with a tie for 17th at the Sony and a tie for 26 at the Genesis. What I like most about Kokrak this week, as many people will, is that his history at Bay Hill is very good. He's got 6 top 20s in 9 starts, including 4 top 10s. So small plus number here on the matchup play on the hotter player with better course history. I think it's a no-brainer. Take Kokrak over Burns in a matchup play. Andy, I'll go back to you. I think your best bet of the week, you're looking at a guy that I like as well.
Yeah, I made a little impromptu change here. This is a prop that is on BetMGM. I would expect it to kind of make it over to some of the other ones. Yeah. Top Scandinavian Victor Hovland. This is minus 200. This is going to fall into my big juice plays. Sounds like a lot, but once I go over who he has to beat in this category, you may think this is a bargain. So he has to beat Henrik Norlander, who's missed 3 straight cuts, and he's finished 71st in miscut here the last 2 years, not playing well at all. He has to be Henrik Stenson, way past his prime, playing horrible golf. Missed the cut last week. Missed the cut at this tournament the last 2 years. Has not been the same since the elbow injury. And then he has to beat your boy, Hogard. Hogard, who missed the cut last week. We joked about like what an odd course to make your PGA Tour debut, and he's like, I haven't had enough. I'd like to go play Bay Hill. So, I think this is a layup for Hovland. Hovland has never missed the cut here in 3 years. He is top four in 4 out of his last 6 tournaments. I think he's one of the betting favorites. So to get minus 200, all he has to beat is some of these guys who are just missing the cut and are bottom feeders. Really, really like this prop. I'd lock this thing in now. It wouldn't surprise me if the line moves.
I took that exact bet 2 weeks ago. Stenson wasn't in there. It was Norlander again, who I said he's not going to be in the weekend. He wasn't. And then Norin as well, who was actually kind of came out of nowhere the week prior. But anyway, I took the exact same bet. It was an easy cash. I think he finished runner-up or tied for third. I forget now. But it was an easy cash. So I do like that play as well. All right, before we end the show, I want to talk quick about Andy. I wasn't watching the Champions Tour. But you said there was quite the story from none other than the mechanic in his Champions Tour event this week. What the hell happened?
All right, so Miguel Angel Jimenez, who is just an all-time legend in the golf world, the cigar smoking, wine drinking, just what a guy, what a life he's lived. So he wins the tournament, and he has 2 holes in one in this tournament. So is this the best Champions tourney win ever? How do you beat winning a Champions tournament with 2 holes in one? How does it get better than that? I can't think of a scenario. It wasn't the same hole, was it? No, but it was on 2 separate days. But when you leave, you go, I won the tournament and I had 2 holes in one. People play golf their entire lives without getting one. You did it in the same freaking tournament and get the win. I can't think of a scenario that's better than this one.
Well, it would have been better it might have been better if he had the 2 hole in ones but missed the cut. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, it would have been a stupid story.
I don't know. So he's an awesome guy. If you want to look him up, he's got some incredible interviews over the years. So he's one of those guys I look up to. Like, got the most out of his lifetime for sure. So congratulations to him.
Mechanic is definitely a funny guy. Any bets? There's another event this week, Andy. Any bets in Puerto Rico?
Yes, I bet I will not watch 1 minute of that tournament. Take the under 1 minute.
Fair. Absolutely fair. All right.
Does that one count? Does that one count towards FedEx Cup points and things?
No, yeah, it does. Oh yeah, it does. It counts the exact same. Counts the exact same. 500 on the line for 550, whatever they give.
So silly. The Puerto Rico tournament.
I'm going to do this. I haven't looked yet, but I'm going to do this live. I'm pulled up the odds board, and I'm going to pick a winner. Oh my god! You got
Puerto Rico. It's bad.
Hang on a second. You got Mark Hubbard as 20-1. Who the hell is Mark Hubbard? You got Peter Uihlein, Dylan Wu. These are guys in the 28-1 range.
Yeah.
What is that? Oh, all right. Austin Smotherman. He's actually been playing in some of the bigger events and finishing well. He's 40-1. Okay, maybe there's something there. I don't.
Ted Potter Jr. finished 7th last year here at this.
Did he really?
Yeah, Grayson. Yeah, a fat barn rat, and then Grayson Murray finished third. Grayson Murray finished third. Social media king Grayson Murray. Awful.
All right. I'm sorry for wasting everybody's time with that. Well,
it's good.
It's a matchup. I don't know. All right. We'll end the show with our mention, of course, of the promo code one more time. Arnold 20, either Andy or myself's tournament pack. Get it for just $19. Normally $39. All 4 days of coverage will include any daily round matchups that we may add through the week. Mine does include a 5% play this week. So hopefully Andy and I get a nice winning pack put together. Next week we will be back. Of course, we have the Players Championship, the 5th major, that is. So that's always a big event. Can't wait for that. So on behalf of Andy and myself at WagerTalk.com, thank you guys for tuning in. Good luck with your bets, and we will see you next week.